to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. It's Power Talk Friday. I have a rather interesting and unique show for you today. My guest, Molly Schoneveld, is a personal publicist working with celebrities, personalities, and interior designers of all levels. And today, she is talking to us specifically about what it takes to become a celebrity interior designer. Now, I know that not everyone out there is interested in this route. I know that many of you prefer to do your best work, to serve your community, to be you, to do you. But I also know there are some of you out there who have thought about becoming nationally and internationally known. I have had more than a few of you tell me straight up, right to my eyeballs, I want to be the next Shay McGee. And I always say, I love it. I love the drive, I love the passion, and I love to see you making it happen. So if this sounds like you, Molly has some insights on how to structure your career and how to strategize to reach celebrity status. And if this is not your cup of tea, don't go turning off the show so fast. Today's episode is still worth a listen because many of the nuances that Molly discusses still apply to your design business, specifically how to promote it in the press. So before we dive in, I just want to take a moment to thank our show sponsor, Revel Woods. Today, if you're listening in real time, is October 15, 2021. And right now, I am in Power Talk Friday Live, the Power Talk Friday tour in High Point, which this event is sponsored by Revel Woods, IDS, and My Doma Studio. So tons and tons of thanks and gratitude to them. And I want to say, if you have yet to go see what Revel Woods is about, I invite you to go to revelwoods.com, look into their designer trade program for you, and understand how you can bring hardwood flooring into your product mix so that you can improve the profitability of your projects. Okay? They make it very easy. You don't take my word for it. Yes, take my word for it. But go and sign up and start the dialogue with John Dupre and his team at Revel Woods so that you can really understand how you don't have to leave this money off the table, right? You can bring this money into your projects and really up the profits in your firm. All right, so let's hear what Molly has to say about creating a celebrity design career. Hi, Molly. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
So, Molly, I'm very intrigued by what you wrote into me about, the concept, the idea for the show, and sort of the way I am going to put it into my own words, what I read, and I want to understand if I'm nailing it, is that as interior design professionals, a designer can aspire to do really brilliant work. I mean, I'm sure every designer has that aspiration, right? To do really brilliant work, serve the people in their community, whether that's local or regional. So almost like big fish, little pond, or even little size fish in little pond, right? Just doing a really good career and body of work over the course of your career. Then there's the designers that aspire for a little bit more, like they want to be known as high-end luxury designers, maybe with a national clientele base or international clientele base, but really it's focused on the work and the body of work. And then there are designers that aspire to be celebrities in tandem with being interior designers. And what I read and I understand from you is each has a different nuance, and there's a different way to get to each. It's not just you start here, you go there, and then that happens. Am I on the right track with what you were describing to me?
That's right. There's definitely a different strategy involved. And I think the first thing that I would say to a designer that wants to be a celebrity is that, or, be a personality and have a TV show. The number one thing at that point that your job becomes is to entertain. And I think people forget that. And there was an amazing article in Los Angeles Magazine this month, and it was all about real estate. And they interviewed the top realtors in LA, and it was about the state of the market and their interactions with clients and what's hard about working with $1 million properties and all of this stuff. And one of the people that they interviewed was Josh Flagg, and the rest of the realtors were just at the very top of their game, but they didn't have a show like Josh is obviously on $1 Million Listing. And there was such an amazing difference between the way that Josh answered the questions and the way that everybody else answered. Josh was, first, he was hilarious. He was also a little bit off-putting at times, and kind of polarizing, but in the best possible way, because he realized, I'm here to bring the entertainment. I have a show. I'm a personality. This is what people expect of me. And if he had approached that interview with just, kind of answering the question as an expert the way the rest of the people did, it kind of falls flat for him as a personality. So I highly recommend that everybody go to LA Magazine and look up that article. It's online. It's also in print this month. But I think that's just such a clear distinction. What do you want to be known for? Do you want to be known as a personality, or like you said, do you want to just have, and I don't say just have, but to have an extremely successful design firm, whatever that means to you?
Right. And so I have to say, I think it's interesting that you're good at what you do. You have a lot of cred, and we went through it in the bio and all the things. It's interesting though, because it's a new concept for me. I can understand the idea that this Josh is an entertainer, that he's got a TV show and all of that stuff. But if I also intellectually understand that he was tapped for the TV show because his body of work as a realtor, earned him that opportunity, that when you come to a conversation that is about the business, I'm surprised to know that you don't come back and switch it to the business, right? Like that's new for me, because I would, what I'm trying to say?
He definitely did bring it back to the business, but his answers were just, okay, so let me give you a very clear example. So one of the questions was, how do you find staging these $1 million homes? And you got answers as broad as, staging is, it's so important because it really sets the tone for, the way that the home's going to be perceived, yada, 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 all the business stuff, right? Josh's answer was, I have no idea how long staging takes because I never stage. My assistant does all that. and that's hilarious. And also kind of, you just know who he is from all of his answers were like that.
Okay. So when we translate that to a designer that may aspire to be a celebrity / personality designer, what your big call to action is, you're always entertaining is the point, is no matter what you're doing.
Yes. And whether you have, a show on HGTV or Netflix or whatever, regardless of what it is, there always has to be a story arc, and there always has to be some drama. And I encourage everybody, the next time you're watching your favorite design show, whether it's Dream Home Makeover or, whatever it is, pay attention to where they find the drama. It'll either be between the husband and wife team, or it will be between the client and the designer, they always are creating a conflict. And I've worked with a lot of reality television stars, and I've also actually been on a reality TV, one episode of this show that was all about finding filming locations.
Oh.
And it was with one of the top location scouting companies in LA. And so they do all these incredible homes for photo shoots and films and television and all this stuff. And we did a trade with one of my clients who needed a space to do a photo shoot. And they said, well, if your celebrity client and you will come on and do an episode of our show and let us kind of stage this, then we'll give you the house for free.
Hmm.
So we went on this show, and I mean, it was all fake. I mean, they kind of fed us lines. They wanted my client to come across as like a little bit upset because they weren't finding exactly the house that she wanted, or like, so they created this whole storyline. So I think it becomes more about the entertainment factor than it does about the actual work that you're producing. So it's a very different thing. I mean, I worked with Kristen Cunningham, who was the face of HGTV for many years for Design on a Dime.
Mm.
And, it's not easy. I mean, it's a grueling schedule. I mean, you're having to create these projects and do these homes, and sometimes it's all over the country, so you're never home. And it's a hard life to have. So I think it's just important to realize that suddenly it's not just glamour. Doing those kinds of television shows, it's a lot of hard work, and it's different work than actually designing someone's home.
Mm. And do you find some commonalities in maybe the clients that you've worked with, design clients that you've worked with, that do strive for this type of objective in their career, as opposed to the objective and the goal being specifically work focused? I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is, do you have to have design chops to get to this level, or do you really just have to have personality chops?
Oh gosh, you definitely have to have credibility.
Okay.
And that is, I mean,
Thank you, because I was about to be very disappointed.
Yeah, no, I mean, it always starts there. And so this
Okay.
is the interesting thing. So I've had a lot of clients who are doing extremely well and have a lot of followers. And so, for example, my client, Drew Scott, not the property brother, he is a DIY YouTuber with the fastest growing channel in the home space. He has over 1 million followers. And he does these incredible DIY home projects. He'll do like an entire like bedroom makeover, and then he does like smaller projects. But his goal is to have a show, and he has this credibility right now of a lot of followers and a lot of eyeballs on him, and especially in the Gen Z millennial space. And so he had no press, so he hired us because he needed to be able to say, I've been featured in AD, which he now has been. And then the next step is obviously to do a meet and greet with the producers and production companies. And I mean, they first, if they're interested, there is a very big outlet that's interested in having him do a YouTube show for them, where he would be, he would essentially be the expert and the host of the show. I mean, they don't just say like, oh, you have amazing work and we're going to put you on the show. The next step is we do an interview.
Mm.
And so they ask him a lot of questions. They get his personality. They see how comfortable he is with this. So it's sort of like when you hear actors doing like chemistry reads, or they'll do a screen test and then they have to meet the other actor. I mean, it's like, sure, their work is the thing that gets them in the meeting in the first place. But then once they get the meeting, it's like, okay, so this person is obviously incredible at what they do. They have amazing projects, and they've done all this stuff in their field, but can that now translate to entertainment on television?
Right. Well, and I can understand that. I really can understand that. if you don't have that other factor, that little it factor to be on TV and to emote and to connect and to all of that. But I was a little concerned that, that was really the major factor, that if you bypass the hard work of having the skill set of a designer, that wasn't as important. I was going to be very brokenhearted.
Yeah, no. It starts there. And honestly, one of my clients, Hammer and Spear, who I launched in the Arts District, Kristen started, as I mentioned, on HGTV, which is a very different place to be than the high-end interior scene in LA. They're two different categories, because she was basically doing, very inexpensive design on a dime, and then decided she wanted to be known for extremely high-end interiors, and she wanted to be an AD. And so she sort of retired from the television world, and she hired me initially because of that television connection. But then, within the first few weeks of working together, she had decided, I'm done with television. I'm going to launch Hammer and Spear. It was going to be actually just a really small boutique in the Arts District, right when the Arts District kind of was starting to become known as like this new cool neighborhood in LA. And so we launched the store. It did so well that they expanded into this enormous space, like right in the heart of the Arts District. And this was, in the matter of a few years, they were really like the darlings of the Arts District. They knew everyone, and we could position them as tastemakers as well as high-end designers, because literally everyone was writing about the LA Arts District, the Wall Street Journal, Food and Wine magazine. What's crazy is that we got them, like a feature of getting like their tour of the Arts District. So we were obviously placing their projects and their design work, but we were also solidifying their place as tastemakers in a very cool area of LA. And then they launched their design firm, and had their first project was just incredible, because they had already become known for a certain aesthetic with their own home and getting their own home press, and their store very much looked like their home and their work. And so their first project, we got placed in AD. So she did the reverse. She went from television to then wanting to become known as a high-end designer and be taken very seriously by the design community. And so we had to kind of reverse the way that we would normally work.
Okay. But she had the design chops. You didn't create a high-end designer out of a TV star.
No.
See, that's the part that would break my heart. Like, don't tell me that's possible.
No.
Okay. Okay. Now, tell me, so for instance, we've got designers listening. There's, probably the biggest majority of the designers listening are like, look, I just want to be a great designer. I want to do good work, have awesome clients, and ride off into the sunset. But if we've got 10% out there that are thinking, yes, I want that. I want to be a celebrity. I want to be a personality. I want to have a TV show. I want to do all the things, What do we start out? What do we start? Like, is there a strategy that we need to think about from the very beginning of our business? Or is it something that, hey, go do your work and in 10 years, call me? Like, how does this happen?
Yes. So one of the things that I said to a designer client yesterday, a new client, is, what do you want to be known for? Because I think that one of the other commonalities between people who want to be on television and designers who just want really successful firms is that if you want to be known, even if it's not as like television personality, you've got to hone your own style. Like, if you think of all the people that you know in interior design that you look up to, they're all known for something. It's so easy to spot a Kelly Wearstler designed project. It's so easy to just, all of these people, whether it's Shay McGee, Amber Interiors, they all became known for a certain style, and it's kind of their signature. And so if you want to have more of your dream clients, then you've got to get really specific about the work that you're doing, which means, saying no more. turning down projects with clients that are not aligned with your vision. If you're a designer who does traditional decor, then don't take on a project where somebody wants like grand millennial style or
Mm-hmm.
really modern or something like that. And I know this is where it gets tricky. And look, I am a small business owner too, so I know how hard it can be to turn down business when you're seeing dollar signs. But the number one thing that has helped my business grow over the years and to get more of the clients that I want is to say no to the ones that really don't make sense. So I think I would definitely encourage that. And for any designer that's starting out that doesn't already have a portfolio of tons of work that is, that is your signature style, you really need to start in your own home because you can be your best dream client. And that is
Mm-hmm.
how so many well-known designers got a name for themselves. Whether you're talking about like Shay McGee or Amber Interiors, I mean, they started with their own projects and started sharing those. And they're obviously extremely talented, but I would say that it's just so important, and it's why I discourage designers from sharing a lot of other designers' work on their Instagram. I think it's fine once you've already kind of got a name for yourself to give some love to other people. And every once in a while, obviously, that's fine. But I can't tell you how many times designers reach out to me about PR and I go to their Instagram and literally every single photo is somebody else's work. And
Mm.
I'm just like, well, who are you? Like,
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, how would I even know to hire you if I can't see, if all you're doing is sharing what you wish you were creating?
Mm.
So I
That's
think,
it's a
you know what
good.
I mean?
Yeah.
So I just think it's important that if you don't already have a client that you can just do whatever you want and knock it out of the park, it's like, yeah, invest in your own home. Redo. I mean, I know a designer, a good friend of mine here in LA. She's so fantastic, and she redid her house and got it in house beautiful. And then she's now, I mean, the style has changed in the last 6 years, and she's really savvy, and she knows if I want to get the press that I want, I need to like do a bedroom makeover so that it looks more current.
Mm. And
So,
so, from a business standpoint, this is sitting down with yourself and, look to this at some level. Investing in your own home and doing, your dream project in your own home works for any level that we aspire our business to be, just to
that's
attract
right.
clients, right? Like, so
Right.
this is not a step that, hey, pass this step or don't worry about this step if you're trying to create business, and you don't want to be a celebrity, right? So this is a
Right.
worthwhile step no matter what. But the idea of it is to consider that this is part of your startup investment in your business,
That's right.
right? Right?
Yes. And the photos that you take, you know, this is, I swear that I feel like this is my life's mission to teach interior designers what they need in order to get press because, I get submissions every single week for all different kinds of design projects, honestly, all over the world. I have people that reach out to me. And you know, these are designers that are very established, and they'll send me their collection of images and it's 10 photos and the master bathroom is missing. And their response is, oh, well, the photographer could only give me 10 photos, or I could only afford to pay this photographer for the 10 images. And, we didn't do the master bathroom. So I don't have it. Well, that is very hard if you want to get a home tour, and especially if you want a home tour in a print magazine. I
Mm.
mean, they need to see 25 to 30 images. They need to see every major room. I mean, you don't have to show like the kids' room or the guest bedroom or the library, but I mean, you've got to show the kitchen, the living room, the primary bedroom, the primary bathroom, the dining room. I mean, those are the 5 rooms that really tell a story. And I mean, publications say no all the time because there's not enough to see.
Mm.
I mean, I've had Lux magazine, because Lux, especially for print, I mean, their home features can be 10 pages, and
Mm.
they've got to they've got to fill those pages. And a lot of times, I mean, more times than not, a magazine is not going to reshoot your project. Now, Better Homes and Gardens reshoots all their they shoot all their projects. They're also working. Sometimes the project that we shot in October will not run until summer of 2022. That is a year and a half
Whoa.
after we did the shoot.
Wow. That's crazy. I mean, it just from a standpoint of creating something in the media that doesn't go out for a year and a half, I just think about all the changes in the world and like what we just been through and how do you know what I mean? But I guess it's
Oh,
like design in a bubble, and so it's going to be appropriate. I don't know.
well, so a year and a half is really long.
Mm.
I mean, I would say that standard is more like a year. And
Mm-hmm.
it's why when you're thinking about your strategy of like, oh, I want to get press, if your project that you're photographing right now is currently trending, then what you want to seek is digital press, because the digital outlets, they want to show what's trending,
Mm.
right? Right now, they want to be like, rattan is really in, or green kitchens, they're really in, or whatever it is. And so if you've got a green, I mean, if you had a green kitchen 5 months ago, you were definitely getting press. Like,
Right, right,
I
right. I
mean,
know. I keep seeing them all of a
yes,
sudden. It's
yes,
very
yes.
bizarre.
And
It's fun
and
though. I
like,
love it.
right. And the thing is, it's like green is so hot right now, and you're seeing it everywhere. And I think that it will continue to be a trend. However, next year, the print magazines are probably not going to be showing green kitchens anymore.
Right, because it'll be
So
been there, done that. Right.
exactly. So you've got to start thinking ahead, and like, it's a little, maybe a known fact, but at least, as they say, design follows fashion
Mm-hmm.
years later. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like 6 years later.
Whoa.
So if you want to kind of see if that's true, go back 6 years to fashion, see what was trending, and see what's trending in design now, because that's the thing. It's like, you've got to be a trendsetter if you want print press, because magazines are trendsetters. They don't want to show what's been seen a million times before. They don't want a copy of Shay McGee's house. They want to be wowed. They want to say like, oh my gosh, this is so interesting. We've never seen a kitchen like this. The digital publications, though, like I said, like, they're more interested in what is currently in trend right now.
Right.
Um, so that's a good way of looking at the different outlets to figure out, where do you fit? Where does your project fit? And that's such a huge part of what I do for designers, is project placements, because it doesn't always make sense for interior designers to have a monthly retainer publicist. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's expensive. I mean, you've got to have a lot going on for that to make sense, whether it's a store opening or a book launch or something newsy, a news hook. So the project placement thing is just so great, because you pay a deposit, and then when we place your project, when we get the confirmation from the magazine, then you pay the final part. So
Mm.
you're
Interesting.
not out if God forbid we actually can't get your project placed. And I probably turn down 95% of the submissions I get,
Right,
because
because you want success. You
we do.
want to take on the clients
I
that
do.
you know you can hit it out of the park for.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I know. I like that philosophy as well. It's look, it's a win-win. We
Mhm.
all want win-wins. So,
Right.
but the thing is, so what's interesting is, we sort of started talking about, what the strategy is from the beginning to if your aspiration is to be a celebrity personality designer. But actually, many of the things that we've just been talking about, they are the tenets for every design firm, right? As like
They
taking
are.
good photography, all of the things, and having a point of view when you want to submit to a magazine, and understanding the difference between what a digital outlet and what a print outlet is looking for, and of course the investment in photography. That
Right.
is good, solid advice for every designer, no matter what their ultimate aspiration is. Agree?
Well, yes, because your photos are the thing that's going to get you noticed. So if you want to be on television, or if you just are trying to get better clients or more of your dream clients, the photography is what people are going to see first. So it has to start there. I mean, you've got to be really good at what you do and execute it very well. And then you've got to photograph it for editorial. And then you could be on the path to television. But these are all the basic things that has to happen no matter what your goal is.
Mm-hmm. And so let's just jump forward now. So say we are, talking with a designer who has aspirations to be on television in whichever form that might take. We have created a body of work. We have created a portfolio of high quality photographs. We have established our credibility. And somebody has told us, other than our mother, that we've got a personality that probably would work on TV, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then what? Then what happens is, now is it a matter of hiring a PR rep, hiring an agent? Is it having, you're lucky enough that your best friend is a celebrity? Like what is that next level once you've done the foundational work to, that you're able to spring off of? What you have a point of view. By the way, I don't want to go glossing over that, because we've been told that on the show before, that having a point of view. So you described it as having a signature style, right?
Right.
Because if there is, we all know designer colleagues that will design a very beautiful Mediterranean home and a very beautiful, Scandinavian type home and a very bit of, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
But if you aspire to be a celebrity personality, you're going to need to dive into a niche of design and have a point of view. Is that what you're saying?
100%. And by the way, you also need to do that if you just want to be known on a more national level,
Mm-hmm.
rather than, the best designer in your town.
Okay. So, and that has to be something that maybe it comes very natural to us. That would probably be the biggest gift of all, that it's just like something we're just so passionate about. We would love to do it for free all day long. And have you ever noticed or worked with a client, Molly, or ever, probably by the time they get to you, it's established, but have you ever had conversations with a designer that they said, I don't know what's the one signature style that I would be passionate about? Is that something that you can arrive at? Or if you can't focus on that, that's not clear to you, then probably that national and celebrity level is not in the cards. Like, if you know what I'm saying, you almost have to do it all day, every day, right?
I just think it's way harder. I mean, certainly you can get publicity if your projects are, of a certain caliber. I mean, it just depends on what kind of press we're talking. Getting your project placed is one thing. Trying to really build your personal brand and your studio brand is something else. So, having a point of view, I mean, it really is the thing that if you want to take it to the next level, which is probably the number one thing I hear from designers, and I'm not even sure they understand what that means. So I would say, if you are someone looking to take your design business to the next level, really think about what does that mean to you? Because if you want to be successful with your publicist or just with PR in general, it's like knowing where you're going is just so important so that everybody can get on the same page.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we're here. We have done 2 years or 10 years of work. We know what we're doing. We are seasoned. We have good design chops. We have always invested in quality photographs. We have a portfolio that has a point of view. We know what our point of view is. We know what our style is. We're happy to do it all day long. How do you suggest that somebody take that and convert that to that first opportunity to make the splash in the world and to get some recognition that's beyond our pond?
So the next thing that you need to do is figure out, how are you going to showcase yourself on video? Because video right now is the thing. It's only going to get more saturated. Obviously, television is a video format. So any producer, talent booker, network executive, they've got to see you on camera. So this can be done in a few ways. So for example, my client Drew Scott, who is a YouTuber, he has hours and hours and hours of video footage. What he does not have is being on a television show and actually proving that he can do what he does with a television host in a very short amount of time. Because when he's doing his YouTube videos, he can edit, he can take 3 days to do the project and edit together. But it's a
Mm.
very different thing if you're going to go on the Today Show and recreate a project and interact with a host and realize you've got millions of people watching you. How is that going to translate? So I never say start with the Today Show, because just though that's what you may want, you don't want your practice round to be the Today Show.
Mhm.
So local media is your friend because it's where you can really hone your skills. There are also classes that you can take on hosting. I recommend that everybody does that. I recommend that you get some media training so that you can get really good at hitting every single thing that you want to get in there. Whether you're promoting a show or whether you're just trying to get new clients, whatever your call to action, whatever you want that to be, you want to make sure that you can get that in a natural way. So I would suggest, so for example, like with my client Drew Scott, he has the subscribers, he has the Instagram followers, he's become known for something. He now has the media, but what he doesn't have is television. And so he actually started working with me right before all the shows went on hiatus for the summer.
Mm.
So we're now starting to think they're all starting to come back. So this week, next week, and most of the talk shows will be back in session. We are pitching him now for sort of like back to school kind of segment. So our goal right now is to get him his first television appearance. So I would say for you, if you're in a small town, everybody's got a local media station. And I'll tell you, the producers there love to have direct relationships with the people that they have on the air, the experts. Follow them on Instagram, interact with them. And then that way, when you send an email, hopefully there's some sort of recognition. I make so many contacts from social media, from Twitter.
Mm.
Twitter is an incredible place to connect with editors, with producers of your local morning shows, because it's not, somebody on Instagram may have, thousands of followers and they're getting a lot of comments, and your DM kind of goes into that weird place where unless you're following back, you don't even see it. But
Right.
Twitter, most people aren't getting tons of responses to their tweets, and most writers, most editors, and most producers are there. So, you can kind of start, but you've got to be smart. Like, you've got to watch your local morning shows or whatever it is that you feel like you could do. See what it is that what they're drawn to. Like, are they actually doing DIY? Like, what are they doing? Are they even doing home segments? You really need to familiarize yourself and then come up with, okay, what could you do on television to execute this? So you've got to have tips and takeaways. That's the biggest thing when you're going in for your pitch. It's like you need to have 3 to 5 clear takeaways that you're going to teach their audience. And you can obviously hire a publicist. We do this all day long, but if you're looking to do this yourself, that's pretty much how it works. It's a lot of time and research and putting yourself out there.
I think what's interesting about it is that I think one of the components that we often forget is that you just don't put yourself out there for that local television station and say, here I am, I'm over here, I've got 5 or 10 or 20 years experience as a designer. I could be, somebody that you could ask questions to. It's to go the other way and say, here's what I am. Here's 3 things I can teach your audience. I saw, it's funny because it reminds me of the pitches that come into the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
There's some pitches that are all about, here's what I do. And, it's mostly from out of industry, right? Out of industry, people
Right.
that want to be the experts on my show. And it's, here's all about us, what I do, what my boss does or our client does, blah, blah, blah. And what I love is, especially when it starts with the line of, we love your show. And then they talk to me about how they, their boss or their client is the expert on, coastal beach designs. And I'm like, So you love the show and you know all about it there. That's awesome. Like,
Right.
so to your point, like, understand, do they do home segments? Do I talk about design on my show? No, I don't, right? Like, I talk about the back end of it, the design, the business
That's
end
right.
of it, right? And so, but then to come and say, for your audience, for your local TV audience, these are 3 things that I'd love to teach them. And that makes that producer, that writer, whoever it is, it makes them say, oh, job halfway done. This is great. Let me do a little research on this person. They're the real deal. Maybe this will happen, right?
100%. I mean, every media outlet is so short-staffed. I mean, they are so overworked. And I think the biggest misconception people have about producers is that you can just put your name out there and say, I'd love to be on the show, and the producer is going to come up with a segment. That is not how it works. The only time that works is if you are already a well-known expert. So one of my clients was Chris Powell, who was on ABC's Extreme Weight Loss. I mean, this has been years ago, but he was a regular expert for Good Morning America. And they would oftentimes come to us and say, we are doing a segment about this. Can Chris come on and talk about X, Y, and Z? And we would say yes. And then other times, like when he had his book come out, we would pitch them and say, hey, Chris has his book out. These are some of the things that he can talk about. And, 99% of the time, the producer would come back and have a different idea. But when you have never done television and nobody knows who you are, it is not the producer's job to figure out how to make you work on their show. It is your job to figure out how you actually fit and what you can bring. So like LuAnn, for example, when I was pitching myself to your show, you better believe that I went on your podcast and looked to see, like, has she ever had a publicist? What did that publicist talk about? Like,
Right.
Who else has, like, where is the missing piece here? Like, what could I come on and offer that would be unique and different? Because otherwise I don't have a chance.
Right. Right. No,
And
it's so
that's,
true. And it shows the respect, right? It shows the
yeah,
respect that you want to show to that local television producer, that you understand what their mission is. You understand what their goal is and how they're trying to serve their audience, and then how you fit in. It's funny because it's reminding me of the conversation I had with Rashida Gray, and we'll put the episode number in the show notes. And she has very successfully worked with her local radio station, television station in the Philadelphia market. And I remember, you're just having me, like, I'm having a deja vu moment. I remember she was like, I think she rattled off like 5 ideas that you could pitch
right.
a station producer with. But if I know Rashida, she's a smart lady. She also said, but make sure that you watch the show to know that these are types and segments that they have done in the past. You know what I'm saying?
That's exactly right. And the thing that you guys need to know too is that if you are a luxury designer and you're doing extremely high-end projects, they don't do $1 million home segments on morning shows, because
Right.
that's not the audience that they're serving. So whatever you do on television is going to have to be, I mean, I hate to say dumbed down, but it's going to have to be for a broader audience.
It has to be relatable. It has to be translatable to the person who is sitting home at 10 o'clock in the morning and enjoying that television show. And it's probably
That's right.
somebody that is less likely to actually hire an interior designer, just, more likely to be an enthusiast, a design enthusiast. So you want
That's
to
right.
share something that, they can get some value of, they can get excited about, they can be inspired about, but you're not pitching your design services there for the next,
No,
$500,000 design fee.
definitely not. And you're probably not even going to get clients from doing
Right.
local press, and probably not even the Today Show, to be honest. But what it does, it's like, if you dream of having your own show eventually, it does give you that tape to show. It's sort of like, if you want to get on local press and you've never done local media before, I would recommend that you put yourself on, do IGTVs, do reels, do anything where you're talking to the camera, just so that you have something. Because the first thing the producer is going to ask us is, do you have tape that you can share? And it's one of those chicken or the egg things. But I feel like, today with social media, it's made it pretty easy for you to figure out how to do it yourself without having a producer take a chance on you having not seen anything. So I would definitely start doing video. Plus, it's really great for the algorithm right now. And then you can kind of work your way up to doing other things. But I mean, also, if you're trying to be, you want more national recognition, even if that doesn't include television, just being able to say, I've been on the Today Show, that's impressive to people.
Well, it is impressive. It's a feather in your hat if you get selected, because that means that you have provided them with a meaningful idea that they found valuable, and that, if you actually do the taping and you come across and, all of your marbles have stay in your head straight and you can get it out, yay.
And it's something, if you want a book deal, is also extremely important.
Okay.
Because, Instagram followers is important. However, now it's like, if you have 10,000 followers on Instagram or 250,000, I mean, how many people are actually seeing what you're posting? I mean, if you have a really engaged account, then that's great. But otherwise, if you have a manager who's pitching you for a show, or if you have a literary agent who's, trying to get your book purchased, then having a media kit and being able to show all these things that you've been in, it definitely helps.
And you mentioned in this very good pitch that you did to me, Molly, you mentioned that there's also once you are at the point and you're poised and ready to start to put your toe in the water, in addition to pitching yourself to local media and outlets and so forth, is the think about opportunities that you might collaborate or create a partnership with that involves cross promotion, as opposed to.
That's right.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the thing is, one of the top questions that I get from designers is, how do I grow my social media, especially in 2021, when we're sort of past the point of just a pretty photo is going to be enough. And a huge way of how you do that is to get other people talking about you. So obviously press is one way, right? Because if you get a feature on Rue magazine, then they support that feature with a lot of Instagram posts. And so you're, automatically people are seeing your tag and all of that. But if you're not doing press, or if you want something in addition to press, it's to start doing collaboration. So for example, the one room challenge is a really great thing. I have a designer friend who has done that multiple times, and it has gotten her so much visibility, because not only does it give her content to post about when maybe she doesn't have a project that's even close to being done. The people that do the one room challenge, they're very good at promoting each other. Perhaps if you have a store, it's about like one of the things that we did with Hammer and Spear is we did a collaboration with Kokori Whiskey, because it was woman owned, an LA brand, and we brought her into they used to launch a lot of makers in the arts district, and so they would throw these parties, and so we brought in Kokori Whiskey to serve the cocktails, and then we cross promoted it. So Kokori was posting about Hammer and Spear, and then Hammer and Spear is posting about Kokori. So you want to constantly think, how can I align myself with other people, help support them, and so hopefully in return they're going to help support you. And I think it's a great thing to share other people's work, but be very smart about it. Because like I said, I don't want your whole feed to be other people's work, but I think that you can do things like that where it's just a win-win for everybody.
And when you do these, I mean, look, again, we're talking about when we're at the level that we want to jump and make the leap, not on the way growing this up. When we get to that level, do you just reach out? Like what I'm trying to say is, okay, so I'm an interior designer in, any town, USA. And yes, I walk into my local window treatment person and I say, hey, you want to do a collaboration? And, we'll bring in, the local restaurant, and we're going to do, a happy hour here. And you invite your clients, I'll invite my clients, and the restaurant will invite their clients. That's, again, in our pond. Okay. I can see doing that all day long. By the way, anybody in my area want to do it at Window Works? I'm up for it. Okay. Right. But the thing is, when we go to do it at that next level, like this Kokori Liquors or whatever it is. Like when you reach beyond your pond, is it that you just try it, just like whatever, just call them and see if they want to do it? Like they can only just say no. I mean, and I'm assuming at this point we have to have something that we can bring to the table. Like, do we have to have 5,000 followers? Do we have to have 10,000? Like, what do we have to bring that, like a brand that's a bigger level can, the collaboration really shoots us into the next thing matters. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so what you have to do is be extremely clear on what you're asking them to do because, I'm on both sides of things because I obviously have celebrity clients, so I'm getting a lot of asks. And then I have clients that are not celebrities and we're, the ones doing the ask. And the biggest mistake that I see people make when they want to do a collaboration is they put it on me to figure out how we're going to collaborate.
Same as the producer. Don't think the producer is going to come up with the TV segment, right?
So,
okay.
First of all, you've got to make it easy for people to say yes. So how do you do that? Be very clear on what the ask is and don't ask for the world. Like, if you're asking somebody to co-host a party with you, I mean, that's a really big first ask, especially if you don't have a relationship, especially if you're saying like, well, we'll split the cost of the party and like, I'm going to need your help getting in the vendor. I mean, who's going to say yes to that? Nobody. You know what I mean? But
right. I wasn't planning a party, sweetie. You were.
Right. So I'll give you an example of something that I personally did because it's the first thing that came to mind. But I have a blog called The Sought After where I blog about PR, but also hotels and stuff. But I was really into doing travel blogging probably 6 years ago. And I have this thing called Stylish Stays where I go to a hotel, or I used to go to a hotel. I'd bring a professional photographer. I'd shoot the hotel. And then it was kind of this great mix of really amazingly designed hotels with fashion because I would, dress to match the hotel or whatever. And so I wanted to collaborate with a few other people and people that I didn't know. And so when I did the outreach, what I said was, this is how it would work. I would pay for the photographer. You just show up. I'm the one that does the outreach to the hotel. And then all I need you to do is show up in a cute outfit and be willing to be photographed and be willing to share it on your social media when it comes out. And every single person that I asked said yes, because they really didn't have to do that much. And they were getting free photography that they didn't have to pay for that. And then they were getting content, and everybody is, grasping at straws these days trying to figure out what to post, but if I had said, oh, do you want to collaborate and split the cost of the photography, or if I had just sent an email and said, hey, I'd love to collaborate with you, then it puts them on the hook to say, well, how?
Okay, right, whatever, me too.
Right. So you figure it out. You make it very, very painless and easy. You're going to have way more success.
That's interesting. So in that scenario, what you're saying is you have the blog platform that you wanted to share this content about this resort or this hotel. You were going to pay for the room and the stay at the hotel. You were going to pay the photographer, but what you did was you brought in some other person that might have been just beyond your reach.
Correct.
And said, this is what I'll pay. This is what I'll do. You, in exchange for showing up and doing this, are going to get the photographs, but you're going to share this on your feed or your social or your blog, yada, yada.
Right. Now, the people that I reached out to actually be in the photographs with me were people that I was not close friends with, but had some sort of interaction with.
So not strangers.
They weren't strangers, but they certainly weren't close friends. Now, where I was doing the cold email sending was to the hotels. And you would think that would be easy, but it's not as easy as you might think. However, when I said, I'm going to bring in a professional photographer. Here's an example of what that would look like. You do not have to pay to use my photos. You don't have to post, but if you would like to use the photos for your social and website, then you're more than welcome to do that. And some really amazing hotels said yes and were really great. And one of the hotels, the very first one that I did here in LA was the Culver Hotel, which is a beautiful historic property. And they let us in for a few hours to their best suite. They set up a lovely afternoon tea for us. And I mean, it was just, I got the most incredible content, and they continue to use my photos. And that was like a million years ago. But
So
I
in
made
that situation, you're not paying for the hotel and the room. You're asking
right.
for for them. That's their contribution to the
That's right.
agreement. And
That's
okay,
right. Yep.
interesting.
Yep.
Interesting. So that's so now all we have to do is translate that, right? It's like
Yeah.
we think about it, okay? So when Molly did it, she had the hotel and this was the deliverable for the hotel. She had the little bit of the celebrity personality that was a little above her on the rung that maybe she had been interacting with on social or, Instagram or Twitter or whatever. And then, you're prepared with what you're going to pay, which your investment was obviously your time, but also the photography. And we just have to say, okay, how does that translate to my design world? Where do those three pieces, who would be the hotel? Like, what would it be if it's not a hotel? Would it be what? Who would it be if it's not, you know what I'm saying, right?
Well, and perhaps it is, you like, for example, with Drew Scott, he collaborates a lot with other big influencers and they promote each other. And so for him, his ask is, can I come over and do your home office makeover? And so, he would have to then figure out like, okay, how can I make this as easy as possible for them? I mean, it would be the time that he's going to be in their house, like, putting them out. It would be him saying he's going to provide all of the materials and, whatever. It's not going to cost them anything, or I don't know, maybe he comes up with a very small amount. So I think, but if you're talking about not doing design projects and just collaborating with other brands, I mean, I think that it's just the translation is, how can I make this easy for them to say yes?
Mm-hmm.
How can I make this as painless as possible and take up the least amount of their time, but also offer them something that they would want? And in my case, it was photography. Obviously, in Drew's case, it would be he's going to promote them too, and they're getting an incredible space.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, you just really do have to think the win-win-win. What does everybody want? What does everybody need? How can I provide it? What is the things that I would have to get, money on? What are the things that I would have to provide money on, right? And how
Right.
does it all work? It takes some creativity, takes some creative thought, and it doesn't happen in a minute. I mean, by the time you spent all the time, requesting and emailing and, before the first hotel said yes, okay, now I got a hotel. Now I, got to find a photographer that's in that area that's available, blah, blah, blah. Then I got to find the celebrity influencer. And, and then we all have to agree on a day. And then we all have to spend the day. And then it's all the getting ready for it. It's like getting ready for a reveal install. Do we have all the flowers? Do we have all the stuff? Do we have all the...
I will tell
right?
you this, like, I work out all those details before they say yes. So like for
Oh.
the Culver shoot, for example, I already had my photographer and I already knew when I wanted to do it. So that
Oh.
way, again, I was coming to the table with a very specific ask, and I could say, this is the photographer. These are the days that we have available to shoot. It will take this amount of time. This is what you will get, whether it was 50 images, 75, whatever it was. So extremely clear in
Tight.
that.
It's tight. It's
Right,
like,
with the
and
Kokori, with the Kokori thing. And see, what Kokori was getting is that they were a brand new whiskey brand in LA, and they wanted to be aligned with really cool other creatives.
mm-hmm.
And so Hammer and Spear at that time was just, super well known downtown, like really, really cool. And like they could fill a party like nobody else. And so for Kokori to come in, I mean, obviously they were going to be on the invitation for the party. I mean, people were going to get to taste the whiskey, which is the most important thing to see like, oh my God, these cocktails are so amazing. Who's sponsoring this party kind of a thing?
Right.
So
Right.
it helps. It's like a grassroots marketing thing that's extremely effective when you align with other like-minded brands.
Mm.
So I say work out your details and then make it so they can't say no, but also have a backup plan. Because obviously, with the hotel thing, I've had hotels say no, but then I just kind of go down the list. Okay, well, who's my second choice?
Right, right. Well, I love what it is because, so many of us, we just are spending our entire days making decisions. And I know in my own life, in my own business, any decision that I don't have to gather more information on, I'll make in the moment. It's the ones that it's like, oh, but like, so in that opportunity, if I was the hotel, I might be like, oh, great opportunity, but when would you want to do it? I mean, I've got,
That's right.
conferences scheduled, I've got weddings scheduled, like, I don't know. And I would just go, nah, never mind. But
Hmm.
if
Hmm.
you include everything to your point, I can literally go and say, hey, we're not using, ballroom C that day. You know what I mean? Or we're not
Yeah.
using lounge,
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah, if you'll do it in this room, I'll say yes. So
That's
love
right.
that bit of advice there. Now, one more question on this topic before I move off of it is, you mentioned that sometimes when you work with a celebrity, from the standpoint of a designer working with a celebrity, it's usually not always. Many designers have worked for a regular contract, regular pay for a celebrity, right? But what you
Hmm.
said, that very often it also looks like one of two things. It's the celebrity expects you to do the work for free, not necessarily have the product supplied for free, but sometimes it's often expected that the product is at net and that the design fees are waived. Or you have the opportunity to work with a celebrity and then they say, and you can't tell anybody about me. So it's you have seen two different avenues when designers go to work with celebrities. Tell
Yes.
us a little bit about those.
So, from my own personal experience, I will tell you that it is extremely rare that you get both a very well paying celebrity and you get all the press for that.
Right.
I'm sure it exists, but it has not in my world. It's either
Mm.
been one or the other. Like, you're doing the work, you're waiving your design fee. In many instances, you're also trying to get, for example, like Wayfair to donate product, or, a rug company to donate product. And in exchange for, the celebrity is going to mention them. And then also the publicist of the celebrity is going to pitch this out to get them press. And all this has to be in a contract, you guys. Like,
Mm.
don't just say, great, get going, and then hope that it's going to work out. Like, you need to make sure that what you're expecting, like if you're expecting the celebrity's publicist to pitch this project, you need to talk to that publicist. You need to make sure it's very clear what you're going to get in exchange, and have it in, a very locked down contract, because otherwise, you could find yourself in a very bad situation. But yeah, I mean, there's obviously other times. I mean, Kashani has worked with, I mean, the absolute A list of A list. And, his attorneys have it very, very clear. She cannot put it in her portfolio. She cannot mention his name, but
Mm.
she gets paid really well. So,
Right. It's
I
again,
mean,
what are you aspiring towards, right?
exactly. And I
Hmm.
mean, she's had enough celebrities at this point that she doesn't, I mean, sure, it'd be great to be able to say his name, but she doesn't need it. And at the end of the day, I mean, don't we all just want to make a great living? I mean, I think that it I don't think anybody would disagree with that. So
Right.
if you're getting paid well for your work, then, that's
Right.
the end goal.
Right. Absolutely. Right. Right. You get up in the morning, you get paid. That's
Exactly.
your bills get
Exactly.
paid. Life goes on.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Exactly. But it's interesting to just have that little insight of information that often the projects that are getting a lot of press, that there has been an agreement that the project has been done for little or no design fees, and for possibly donated or net pricing on the product placement in exchange for all of that press. It's not, there's no, like I always say, there's no always or nevers, but to know that that happens, so that if somebody listening were to be approached by some, opportunity, and it's like, well, but you know what, this or that celebrity that probably, doesn't want to pay, wants you to do it at no charge, but they're going to come across with this stuff. I think the idea that I want to express here is, you don't necessarily say poo-poo to that the way you would when your mother's sister's neighbor down the block wants you to do the house at no charge because you're,
Right.
16 twice removed from her cousin Milda, right? So like that is a viable opportunity, as long as, with the caveat that, Molly, that you're describing, is that it's very clear what the celebrity or about to be celebrity's deliverables are back to you in exchange for your work, right?
Yeah, exactly right. And it's also about aligning with the right celebrity, because
Yes.
not just any celebrity, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
maybe you're like, I don't want to be in Us Weekly. That's going to do nothing for me, And
Mm-hmm.
so then you need to think about, well, if you're looking, because obviously now AD and El Decor, they're just so driven by celebrity, even on the digital sites, that you need to figure out, well, who are they going to care about? Because you need to have a very clear idea of what kind of press the celebrity that you're working with could actually get.
Mm-hmm.
um so
Yeah, no, I
something to
love
think
it.
about.
Great. Lots of good things to think about, right? I mean, like I said, do we have 10% of the designers listening that, this is on their vision board, that they are looking to be a celebrity slash personality designer? But it's nice to have some of the insights on, what it looks like and the steps to take and the goals to keep in mind. So very, very helpful. And the last thing that I want to talk to you about was interesting because I have to tell you that I ask on my questionnaire every person what are they doing in their firm for inclusivity or diversity. And I don't ask every person on air because unfortunately many of the answers are I want to do better, right? I want to do better, and that's great, and I'm really glad for that. But Molly, you answered it in a very specific way, and I thought it was such a good tip. And do you remember what you said, or should
I
I?
I do remember what I said, because I was just, I think we're all faced at this moment in time of really having to take a hard look at our businesses and say, wow, like, I don't have any diversity, and how can I change that? And I think the first thing we need to realize, as a small business, I mean, I only have a few full-time employees. I'm not a business of 500. And so it's challenging as a small business owner, because I think hiring in general is one of the hardest things we ever have to do as a small business, as just in general, as owning a business. Finding the right fit people is tough. So, first of all, I don't think that especially small businesses can overnight change a systemic problem, right? I
Right.
mean, it's quite difficult, but the steps that you can take are diversifying where you're posting your job description. And I really spent a lot of time figuring out, like, okay, when I have to make my next hire, where am I going to post? And, we always post at USC and UCLA, because those are the people that are, most often in Los Angeles, and that's where I'm based. So we need somebody local. But, USC has always brought me a certain type of person, and they've been great, but they're not diverse really at
Mm-hmm.
all. And so I posted at Howard University.
Mm.
The PR net has been one of the greatest investments that I've made for my business, just because I feel like they do such a great job of building community. And they have a whole diversity program where they have people that are mentoring um, designers, or sorry, people of color who are just looking to have a job in PR, and they have a job posting site. And I thought, you know what, if they're spending all of this effort trying to get more diverse members, then this is probably also a really great place for me to post my job listing, because they're making an effort, and hopefully more diverse candidates, because it's got to start there. It's got to
Mm-hmm.
start with diversi- diversifying where you're being seen, where the job postings are going. um and I think that it's going to be a slow change, because there's just there's not a lot of diversity in PR in general, and it's a big problem, and it's something the PR net has talked about at length, and figuring out ways to change that.
Mm.
So, I think it has to start with small steps and taking a look at what you're doing and how can you do better.
Well, and that's why I loved your answer. I really, really did, because so often there, can be good intention all along the way, but if it's not followed with action, it's very hard to make the change. And, to me, I want the 500 person companies to make the change, but the change starts with the 3 and 4 and 6 and 8 and 10 person
Yep.
companies, right?
Yeah.
You know, to your point, the larger the organization, the more likely they are to already have established practices. Now, whether they're followed and whether they are fair and even is a whole nother possibility open for debate, right? But I loved your answer that I need to, and I have been considering a wider range of places where I let my community know that I'm hiring instead of the same places that I've always gone, because you get the same thing when you go to the same places.
That's right. That's right.
And they may have been delightful, wonderful, qualified people, but it was not contributing to allowing opportunity for more people of color and for other communities in your LA area to have an opportunity to work in a PR firm. And so I thought it was a great suggestion that each of us can take in our businesses, no matter what our business is, an interior design business, a podcast business, a window treatment business, right? Is
Right.
to look at so that is the tip, to look at places where the community is diverse and let that opportunity that you have be known in that community. Okay. So love it. Thank you so much for that. You know, it's a tough question. It's on. Everybody has to answer it. And they do. But when the answer is good, I bring it up. So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So anyway, well, I have to say this has been so much fun, Molly. Honestly, this little insight into this celebrity, designer world here and the different ways that we might think about putting our toe in the water. And I meet the designers at the events. There are many designers that aspire to this and have the chops, both as you mentioned, design chops, but also personality and charisma chops. And so sometimes we just need that little other piece, which is the information segment. So thanks so much for sharing your expertise, Molly.
Thank you so much for having me on the show. I feel like we could talk all day long.
Exactly. All right. Now, before I share my observations about all of Molly's great advice, I just want to say another observation is that this conversation pretty much centered on being visible, right? Whether that is to TV and other high aspirations or being visible to your local community. Either way, I want you to understand that there is an art to this and there is a science to this, that there is a path to doing it. And fortunately, we have Rachel Moriarty here at LuAnn University who is teaching that this semester in Visibility for Creatives. And there are fewer, better case studies, fewer better success stories of visibility than Rachel's. I encourage you to go back and listen to the episode when she was on the podcast just a couple of weeks ago. And I want you to know that this is a lady who created a plan, stuck with the plan, documented the plan, and now is ready, able, and willing and happy to teach you the plan. So go over to LuAnnUniversity.com, take a look at Rachel's class, Visibility for Creatives, and understand that this is as a solution for you if you want to be visible in your community or you want to build the visibility to celebrity status. Okay. All right. So that's LuAnnUniversity.com. Registration is open now. Classes are starting in 2 weeks. All right. Now, Molly made an interesting point that if you are aspiring to be a celebrity in the field of design, then you need to understand that being an entertainer takes a little more precedence to your design. Okay. It is important to note that you do need to be a top shelf design talent because she explained the work is done quick. It's done under pressure. And in order to achieve in that kind of environment, you have to be skilled. So thinking that your design skill is second to your entertainment skills, for lack of a better way to describe it, might feel counterintuitive, but she's explaining that your personality, your public image, your presence, that these are all the things that when someone is considering who to tap for this opportunity, you have to come across on TV, right? If your skill is as a designer is there, but you don't have this other connection that you can make with the audience through the camera, then we're dead in the water before we even get started, right? So I also think that it was interesting that Molly pointed out that it's pretty necessary to define your style, that you have to decide what you're going to be known for. Once she says it, it makes total sense. Okay, it makes complete sense. If you're going to be competing against so many others that have the same aspiration, if you want to have a leg up, there has to be something that's unique about you. Okay, I mean, we talk about niching over and over and over again, and the value of niching, whether it is for your local community and helping you stand out, or in this case, in the greater world, if you're trying to stand out at that national and international level. Okay. The other thing that Molly said that we've also been told before on the podcast for other reasons, but she said that investing in professional photography is one of the most important things you can do early in your career. All right. She said it is particularly true if you want to become a celebrity designer, because you need to be building that portfolio, showing that body of work. So, I said in the introduction to this show, there's a lot of information here that applies whether you aspire to be a celebrity designer or not. It's just understanding the nuance and the reasons for whether you're using it for your local community or for this greater aspiration, this bigger aspiration at large. And I also just want to say, check out the show notes, because I decided when I was thinking about this and talking to you in this way in the outro that, we have interviewed so many talented photographers over the years from all different parts of the country. So if you are in need of an interiors photographer and you want to know that it's somebody that I have talked to, that I definitely know knows their stuff, then head over to the show notes and we'll list all the episodes of all of the photographers that we've talked to over the years. And it's a great place to start if you are looking for somebody who's really good. Okay? All right. Now, I want to highlight one of the things that Molly said about getting your presence out there, right? She talked about reaching out to local media, getting media training, and practicing how you will portray yourself on television. These are all things that you have to take into account if you have this aspiration, okay? And I will tell you from my own experience, if you've ever been at an event where I've been live, you know that I'm not uncomfortable. You know that I walk out there, whether there's 20 of you there or, 400 of you there, whatever it is, I love it. I love being in that situation with you. But what was interesting is when I did LuAnn Live last February and the whole thing was virtual, it was literally, we set up the Marriott Hotel here in this huge ballroom like a TV set. If you saw some of the behind the scenes pictures of it, you saw that we had literally 3 different stages set up, 3 sets of cameras set up. And I have to tell you, talking into a camera where I'm not seeing your eyeballs is very challenging. It was a completely different experience than talking to live people. And I developed over those 3 days an appreciation for people that stand up and do their thing into this camera, that is not reacting, that is not talking to you, that is not saying, hey, good job, and smiling and nodding their head. And so Molly's advice to get media training and to start with local media and to practice is, I'm telling you from firsthand experience, don't bypass that if this is your aspiration, okay? She also gave some great tips on pitching. When you pitch yourself, make it easy to say yes. Give the media outlet every reason to say yes. Tell them what you're going to teach the audience and explain what you're bringing to the table. This, again, I have to say from a personal experience, we get hundreds of pitches every month, and honestly, some of them are just, I love the ones that start with, I love listening to your show, and I want to suggest my client XYZ or my boss XYZ or whoever XYZ. And then they go on to say, their design aesthetic is based on, such and such coastal, me, the dunes and the sands and all the things. And they would love to teach your audience how they can duplicate that design in their own home. And I'm like, listen to the show, do you? That's awesome. So, it's true. You've got to do your homework. But, if this is your goal, right, to be an international or a nationally known designer, this shouldn't be tough to do this work. This should be joy. This should be joyful work. This should be something that you just are excited about doing. All right. And then don't blow the chance to make a good pitch. All right. And this concept of making an easy yes, right? And this also applies to collaborations and cross promotions. Anytime you're reaching out for assistance, be clear, be open, do what you can do to make it the no-brainer. Okay. All right. And I have to just say, let's, not forget that Molly has services, that she's got the interior design project placement, and the way it works is you pay her half of her fee up front, and she works nonstop to help you get your project placed in the media outlet. And you don't pay the rest until that endeavor is successful. Okay. This means that she is going above and beyond to help you get what you need so that your projects get placed. All right. So to get started with that, if you're interested, visit thestoriedgroup.com and select interior design project placement from her services list. All right. All of this will be in the show notes. I hope that you found something valuable in today's episode. I certainly did. I enjoyed meeting Molly. Thank you so much for your time, Molly. And whether this is your career path to be a celebrity designer, or you're just looking to land more quality work right in your own little neck of the world, I think that there was a lot here to take away. All right. Thank you for listening. Appreciate you so much for showing up. I just can't tell you how much I do. I know I try and say every time how much I do, but please know in my heart, I do value that you take the time to do it. All right. Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnnNigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.